for giving such a type of. There should be some change a little bit from our technical webinars, and which is very useful for all this scenario and this at the present pandemic situation. That's why we thought we are arranging this webinar. Thank you, madam, for accepting this delivering for this webinar. I request our chairman Gyaneshwara garu to give the welcome address.
Yeah, thank you, Namaskaru. Good morning and welcome all the participants for this 57th webinar of our knowledge sharing session. For you all know, for the last 1 year, we have been conducting various topics in the computer science and electronics engineering. But how big the person may be, whether he may be a big scientist or engineer, so health is very important. So during the emergency times, when the required medical facility is not required, it is of no use. So we all have experienced and seen that during the COVID time. So how many of us lost our dear ones, whether maybe colleagues or relatives or known one. So we lost so many people. But the very unfortunate thing is in India, just because of oxygen, shortage of oxygen, the news says that about 1,000 people have lost their lives just because of shortage of oxygen. This should not happen. But what exactly the problem and all, where exactly is it the manufacturing problem? Is it a supply chain problem? So all those things Dr. Nalini madam, she is here as a webinar presenter. I welcome you, madam, on behalf of all the our webinar participants. So I welcome especially Professor Lakshminarayan Garu, Vice President of our past Vice President of our IET and Vice Chairman of Advisory Committee, senior members of IET, Narasimha Rao Garu, Veerabhadra Rao Garu, and Professor Harjinder Singh Garu, and all the participants for coming forward to attend this very important topic. Other than engineering, these sort of things are knowing about the health and other things are very essential. I welcome you all. So I request madam once again and thank madam on behalf of all the participants. So thank you very much, madam, for coming forward. So with this, I close and hand over to our secretary, sir. Namaste, Garu. Thank you all. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, one and all. And our IET Hyderabad Center, just a very brief introduction about our IET Hyderabad Center. Our IET Hyderabad Center is the second largest center in India, having a corporate member strength around 2,500 plus. And we are having the various IET students forums. And we are continuously conducting the various technical programs, improvement of knowledge for the students as well as the members. And in the series, we are conducted for the last 1 year. 5 workshops were conducted, virtual industrial visit were conducted, and various competitions for the students were conducted. And along with one, every Sunday we are conducting the webinar. And in this one, we are conducting the last various endowment. And apart from this one, we are conducting the various endowment lectures, memorial lectures also we are conducting. And the last 1 month, we are conducted all the scheduled lectures, whatever due by the IET. And now today, as a series in the series of webinar, we are conducting this webinar on improvement of oxygen for the patients. And now I request Sanjay Madam, EC member and Chairman Women Empowerment Committee, Sanjay Madam, to read the brief profile about Dr. Nalini Madam. Sanjay Madam, are you there?
Sir, join gale. Join aitana.
Namaskar, mere chadvendi. Chadvendi.
Sitaramma garu, please read the profile of speaker, sir.
For 1 second, sir. Sir, we should be very thankful to the speaker, Nalini Madam, for having accepted our invitation to be part of this. It's my privilege to read the profile of Nalini. She's also IET member, fellow of IETE. As my work, our profile reads like this. As my work interests are vast and varied, I would like to present to this esteemed Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers a very brief profile of mine relevant to my webinar topic. Armed with MSc degree in physics, I worked for DLRL for 10 years on advanced technologies. With the help of signal processing knowledge, I not only gained a PhD degree, but a purpose to venture on my own in the real world, pursuing entrepreneurship based on product-based solution development for organizations in need of them. Worked with few teams to implement solutions, thus building much needed project management capability in many of them. Today's technology capability is convergence based with a matching capacity for solutions in any domain, especially health. Fullerton India, C&K Management, IC Technologies are very few of my clients that are served through the portals of MyRight Starts. This is very brief. I think she has not really given the full profile as she has mentioned in her first statement itself. To present to this esteemed Institute of Relevant Communications a very brief profile of mine relevant to my webinar topic itself. So thank you very much, madam. I go back to Namashivaya Garu to continue the.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Sir, and now request our today's speaker, Nalli madam, please deliver a webinar. Madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm coming on. Good morning to you. I see here my DLRL colleagues, Dr. K. Lakshminarayana and Dr. K. Veerabhadra Rao, and maybe many others are there. Dr. M. Lakshminarayana is, of course, definitely, he was my colleague. I'm not seeing any others' names. Thanks to all of you, especially Jnaneswara Rao Garu, Dr. K. Sitaram Babu Garu, for giving me this opportunity to present to you this webinar. As a scientist, I'm definitely eligible to present this topic, but may not be as a medical doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. You know, we are a doctorate in PhD, through PhD. But our knowledge and the R&D nature of our work certainly allows us to dwell into this topic and discuss among ourselves the various pros and cons of this topic. I am logging in through two media. I request you to just allow me to present through laptop. Am I audible now, sir?
Yes.
Madam, yes, madam.
That's so I will share my.
Ma'am, excuse me. You have to switch off one, otherwise echo will be there.
Right, sir. Now, how is it now?
Madam, now it's good, madam.
Okay, ma'am. Now it is okay.
Sir, I'm sharing my screen. You are able to see this?
Volume, please increase, madam.
No, madam. Screen not visible.
Not yet, madam. Not yet.
Volume is big, sir, 84%. How about now? Is it better now?
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Little better. Yes.
Okay.
So, Lakshman garu leda?
Lakshman garu, sir, volume increase చేయండి sir మీ ల్యాప్టాప్ లో సార్.
మీ ల్యాప్టాప్ లో ఇంక్రీజ్ చేయండి సార్ ఒకసారి.
లక్ష్మణ్ సార్, మీ ల్యాప్టాప్ లో వాల్యూమ్ ఫుల్ పెట్టండి సార్. ఫుల్ గా ఉంది సార్. మాకు క్లియర్ గా ఉంది. మాకు క్లియర్ గా ఉంది సార్. ఆడిబిలిటీ ఉంది. మాకు ఆడిబిలిటీ ఉంది బాగా.
My presentation screen is visible to you all now, sir?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So, once again, good morning to you all.
Yes.
The uses of oxygen for patients. I am dividing this presentation into two parts, where I am initially dwelling on uses of oxygen for patients as first part, and then we go on to the improvements in patients as the second part. So, the agenda for today is like this. Oxygen is a topic I don't have to really talk about, because all the scientists are especially medical people and the people who are aware of nature and conscious, very conscious of what's going on with the air pollution, and such other matters, are very aware of it. And the recent pandemic has brought this to our awareness much more. So oxygen is not really new to us. But then the facts about oxygen, the various nuances of oxygen management are not known well. We are not aware of them. So my first endeavor is going to be to introduce this topic to you, and then go on to oxygen usage in human body, how oxygen is used in human body, then problems caused due to lack of oxygen, then availability of oxygen in the real world, various gadgets and tools required, expertise required to use all this. Then we go on to remedies and precautions and such as a professional matters a little bit. So we move on. So I'm coming to the introduction. We know, we are all very aware that oxygen is the most important gas required for metabolism of human beings. What is metabolism? Metabolism is a process through which oxygen mixes with food in cells and produces energy for the cell and carbon dioxide. So we remember it's an equation. You can remember like this.
Excuse me, madam. There is a lot of echo coming.
Do you want me to log out of the second thing? I have muted my mic and I have muted my video also, sir. I do not know how the echo is coming.
Ma'am, you can only log in from one. That is the best.
So I will log out of the mobile. Okay, let's see if this is better. I have logged out, sir, but I'm still listening to some echo.
And now it looks like better.
Okay, if it is better, I will continue. Okay, so we know now that oxygen plus food give us energy for the body, because each cell gets energy and they also produce CO2, and that CO2 needs to be thrown out of the body. Now, the second thing that we have to know is natural air, which is at a pressure of 76 centimeters of mercury outside in the atmosphere. It consists of 21% of oxygen, 78% of nitrogen, and rest all other gases along with aerosols. Now, we need to dwell a little bit more on this. 21% of oxygen. Yes, we are all breathing air. We all know that. No, our body, our nose automatically does it, and we hardly pay attention to it. We know because we are all involved in so many worldly activities and probably even transcendental activities, that we don't perceive that our nose is actually breathing air, and it is doing so much of work inside through lungs and producing, thus sending oxygen to each cell, and which produces in turn energy after mixing with food, which is making us move and do all our activities. Now, this specific air that we breathe, which is pervading all the atmosphere, is actually consisting of aerosols also. We know oxygen and nitrogen are available as gases, but then these aerosols are tiny, tiny microparticles hanging in the air, which cause lots of problems to our respiratory system. If you go into industrial area and if you actually are on a very heavy traffic road, you will feel a little suffocation. You know that where all you will feel suffocation in enclosed areas and in very polluted areas, you feel suffocation. There also, you have 21% of oxygen, 78% of nitrogen, but the aerosols are many, many more. Now, these aerosols are what is actually causing a lot of pollution, and the carbon particles getting emitted out of vehicles, they're all causing these aerosols in addition to the various industrial particles. The fact of matter that we have to remember while I proceed with the presentation is that if and when oxygen reduces to 19.5% in the atmosphere, it endangers life. So 21% of oxygen is all pervading. It is there in all the countries, everywhere, and that is why human life is actually thriving and actually sustaining. I will not say thriving, I will say sustaining. Human life is thriving, sustaining, and many other lives also, of course. The whole life on planet Earth is being sustained by this oxygen, 21% of oxygen. Now, if that reduces to 19.5%, due to any reason, it endangers life. Life is under threat. Now, air gets thin. The other fact that we have to remember is as we go up in the atmosphere, air gets thin. That means lesser and lesser of oxygen and lesser of air itself is available as we go up, and one cannot breathe. And the other fact is we cannot breathe underwater. We can breathe only through water. The fish actually do that. Now, as we go up in the atmosphere, because we have flights, we have sorties, we have lots of high-flying aircrafts, and even balloons are going up. So, one fact that we have to remember is oxygen supplements are necessary when you go up in the atmosphere. One has to carry oxygen as you go up in the atmosphere. But that we know that, very high-flying aircraft actually have liquid oxygen with them. The third fact that we have to remember here is oxygen is replenished in air only by trees. There is no other source that is producing oxygen and replenishing it in the air. As we are using more and more oxygen, there is more and more life happening on the planet Earth. Who is actually putting more and more oxygen in the air? It is the trees. So the fact of the matter here is that trees have to be sustained on the earth in order to sustain life itself. And the fourth fact that we have to remember here is one tree, a sufficiently big tree, provides enough oxygen for 10 people for a year. So 10 people can breathe happily for a year if there is one tree per them. Now, thus, actually one can sit and calculate how many number of trees are required for the current existing population on Earth, and with huge deforestation going on and lots of forest fires happening, trees are getting burnt out, trees are being cut all over the place, and so you can see that very clearly. You can see that oxygen is reducing in the atmosphere. Currently, even if you measure, people will say, some of the papers will say it is no longer 21%, it is 20%. 20% itself is very, very dangerous because we are very close to that 19.5% figure, which threatens life. So we have to see that the oxygen remains at 21% in the atmosphere. Or now we take recourse to other ways. Let us see how it proceeds. Oxygen usage in industries is out of scope here. I'm not going to talk about oxygen usage in industries because the topic is not relevant to that at all. Next. Now let us see how oxygen is used in human body. Oxygen is extracted from air in human lungs at alveoli. Alveoli are tiny, tiny sacs inside the lungs that actually they take out oxygen from air and pump it into the bloodstream. They are the tiny sacs. Lung itself is a huge sac. That lung consists of very tiny alveoli, and this process is done 12 to 20 times per minute in the lungs. So for 60 seconds, the oxygen is getting diffused into the blood 12 to 20 times. That means if you take 12, you can say it is going 5 times. If it is 20, you can say it is going 3 times. So oxygen is being extracted. There is a process through which these alveoli act. They pump oxygen into the blood 3 to 5 times per minute. That 12 to 20 times is actually for breathing. The lungs breathe 12 to 20 times per minute. So oxygen is pushed into blood 3 to 5 times. Oxygen then goes into blood. Oxygen is then picked up by hemoglobin. We know that hemoglobin exists in red blood corpuscles, and these oxygen molecules sit on top of hemoglobin, and then they're carried. Then from lungs, they directly go to the heart. This is good blood because it just got oxygenated, and thus the red blood goes into the heart, where it gets pumped into all the various organs in the body. Now, the other fact that we need to remember, is oxygen extraction ratio, which is O2 ER. It is just 25%. 25% is a very, when you actually look at the body and see the various processes, 25% sounds very small. Anything above 50% is good, but if it is 25%, it doesn't sound so good. We all know that. This is a ratio of consumption to delivery. Oxygen consumption to oxygen delivery is just 25%, which means the cells in the human body consume this oxygen. That to the ratio, the amount of oxygen delivered to the cell is just 25%. Now, the other fact that we need to remember, or let us understand this a little bit more, there is a process called cellular respiration that happens inside a cell. This cellular respiration is a process through which oxygen is absorbed into the cell from the hemoglobin or from the blood that is pumped to the cell. Now, there we get through food. Food digestion happens, in the digestive system, and glucose is produced. This glucose gets converted to an intermediate substance called ATP, adenyl triphosphate. It is something like that, ATP, to energy. So glucose gets converted to ATP first and then to energy with the help of oxygen. So before oxygen is produced, actually, there is an intermediate substance that is produced, which is called ATP. And this happens only when there is glucose present. So glucose is through food plus oxygen via ATP, a substance called ATP, produce energy. Now, along with this energy, a little bit of water and CO2 are also released. Water goes out in the form of, water is used by various muscles. Then it also goes out of the human body as urine, and there is this CO2 gas also, which is exhaled out. This process, this is a very, very complicated process that happens in every cell. Millions of cells are there in every human body, and each of them does its job, and does only we live happily, actually, which we are unaware of. So the cellular respiration process is the most important process that happens at the lowest particle level inside the human body. Now, we all need to see that this cellular respiration is the process, which is called also metabolism. We talked about metabolism initially. That metabolism is actually this cellular respiration. If this respiration process doesn't happen as well, we get, fat. deposited in various parts of the body, which make us very heavy, obese, and all that. And we have lots of other problems if this process does not happen properly. Now, this is the basic of what I wanted to talk about. That what oxygen does inside a human body. Now that we know what oxygen does inside a human body and how oxygen is obtained from atmosphere into the human body, and then how it goes into each cell and produces energy for us, let us understand few problems that occur due to lack of oxygen. Now, oxygen is used by every cell in the body. Hence, even a little change of oxygen level can cause huge problems. As I discussed earlier, in the air, if there is 21%, we are happy, we live happily. Even if it reduces a little bit, people talk about it as if it is 20% only now. Even then, we have lots of problems. If it is 19.5, it is definitely endangering life. So, a little change in the oxygen level can cause huge problems. Oxygen deprivation for 4 to 5 minutes causes brain death. The first organ that gets affected if there is little oxygen in the body and the oxygen supply process gets hindered due to some reason or the other, the first organ that gets affected is brain. Brain strokes happen, people go into comas, several organs fail, and this is called brain stroke. Within 4 to 5 minutes, this can happen. A little oxygen deprivation to human body for 4 to 5 minutes immediately causes brain death. Now, a certain, I want to tell you the importance of this oxygen. A human being can live on this earth without food. If he does not have any food at all, using various forms of fat available inside a human body, he can live for 8 to 20 days without food. Okay. Without water, one can still live for 3 days. You can see that we all consume a lot of food, we all consume definitely a lot of water, and we are not aware that we are consuming so much of oxygen. But our unawareness of this oxygen actually is, it causes indirectly so much of problem to human body. So something that we are so much unaware of, it causes fatality within 4 to 5 minutes. Something like water, which we actually struggle to get these days due to various supply problems, we can live without it for 3 days. And we know that a lot of water is available for purchase at various purity levels. Now we know food also. We all struggle actually. We struggle to live. We struggle to do all these things only for food, to live happily. Without that food, we can live for 8 to 20 days. But without oxygen or without air for that matter, one cannot live for more than 4 to 5 minutes. Now, we talked about aerosols in the air in the previous slides. These aerosols give a measurement called air quality index for air. This is AQI. These days, you might be seeing this in weather bulletins. Weather bulletins normally show you temperature. They normally show you various maps showing movement of air. But then they started showing you this air quality index recently. This is a measure of air pollution. If AQI is less than or equal to 50, then it is considered good air. It is sustainable. Life is sustainable here. But if AQI is greater than 300, the air quality is termed hazardous. So in between these two values, you can perceive now that increasing levels of respiratory illnesses happen. So anything like 100, 250, those are very, very injurious to respiration process. They cause increasing levels of respiratory illnesses. Now, we know very well that industrialization is the main cause, and due to this, lots of aerosols go into the air. So in 1970, the US has come up with, when its industrialization was at its peak initially, when they themselves did not know the ill effects of industrialization. US has just noticed that lots of problems are occurring to its population. So they came up with a law called Clean Air Act. Clean Air Act in 1970. This, I think, particularly happened in California. In US, it reduced air pollutants because of this one act that they took so seriously, because the pollution was so bad those days and people were frequently falling ill, and which was in turn causing problems for their industrialization because they were not present to do work. Productivity was falling, and health complaints were increasing, and they did not know how to cure them also. And when they brought the Clean Air Act, with this Clean Air Act in place, the governments, the industries and various companies that were present at that time, they recruited the environmentalists who looked at the problems and reduced the air pollutants. They put in a very synergetic act at that time and reduced the pollutants consciously by 70% in the air. And that in turn grew the economy by 250%. This I thought as a fact, I mean as a certain important information that we need to feel and get the effect of air pollutants on economy. This shows us very clearly how good laws actually matter. Now, I continue my presentation with problems due to lack of oxygen. The second slide. They directly, the lack of oxygen will directly cause first a problem with the respiratory network, respiratory tract. So the lung diseases happen first, and you know that asthma, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, hypoxia. This is a lack of oxygen in various cells. Hypoxemia, a state of lack of oxygen in blood. Pneumonia, it's a lack of oxygen in, a problem with extraction of oxygen in the lungs. The pneumonia, which is pneumonia. These kind of lung diseases, I have named only a few. There are many, in medical parlance, there are many more. So these kind of lung diseases happen, which in turn cause a lot of problems to the human body itself. You know that oxygen has to go after all from lungs to various cells, and because of these diseases in the lung, the oxygen supply process gets affected, which in turn causes lots of problems for producing energy. So the human body will not have the required energy to do various works. And so many other intermediate particles, intermediate substances may form, which in turn may cause a lot of problem, which act as toxic elements for the human body. They cause toxicity. So these are direct causes due to deprivation of oxygen. Now, indirectly, there are many more. In fact, I will not be overstating my a state where I would say every part in the body will get affected. If this happens, if lungs are affected, every other part in the human body will get affected. There is no doubt about it. But instead of saying back, the direct cause, which we are actually seeing in the real world, that lots of people suffer from cancers, various types of cancers. Cancer is a huge disease causes very severe problems to human body at various organ levels. So indirectly, these can lead to cancer. As we know, if one smokes, and smoking is injurious to health, is a mandatory warning kept on every such a smoking place, a smoking device or smoking packet. Uh, cancers are direct causes of that, and other lifestyle diseases. Other lifestyle diseases can they have to do with stresses, they have to do with kidneys, they have to do with digestive systems, they have to do with the eyes also, and they have to do, a lot of them have to do with brain also. So the other lifestyle diseases, and these are all due to deprivation of oxygen. These are indirect diseases, because if you go to your doctor, one will look at a cancer problem as a cancer problem of that particular organ. They will try to cure that organ of the cancerous cells by giving some kind of radiation process to that particular organ, trying to reduce cancer in that area. But then the root cause is because of this oxygen deprivation. They may not address immediately, or they may address only in a certain way. So we know the diagnostic processes happen, locally. They do not actually look at the root causes, or they may look at the root causes in a certain way, and so thus this oxygen deprivation produces a lot of indirect diseases to human body. I'm moving on to further elaborate on this matter. The availability of oxygen. If anyone, I'm not looking at participants and their reactions, if anyone is raising their hand. If anyone wants to say something, they may interrupt me, please. Hello. Sir, I hope this is all right.
Yes, madam.
All right.
Yes, madam.
Okay. Okay. Availability of oxygen. Now, we have to take a look at, now that we have looked at the problems caused by deprivation of oxygen, let us look at how oxygen is made available in the atmosphere and to human beings directly or indirectly. As deforestation goes on, planting more and more trees is the only solution to make sufficient oxygen available in the atmosphere. So this is a direct solution. We don't have to think two times or 10 times about it. But how to plant various trees, the environmentalists are looking at it, and the governments are looking at it. Now, supplemental oxygen. Now, natural air is giving us a lot of oxygen, but if natural air is not giving you required oxygen, one has to have supplemental oxygen. They have to be given additional oxygen. Now, how is that given? Hello? Okay, gas is stored in cylinders. This oxygen is stored in cylinders. As it is stored as medical oxygen at 99 to 100% purity. At a lower level of purity for other purposes. Other purposes means the oxygen is not necessarily used for medical purposes, but it can be used for, at domestic levels, or at not industrial levels, at some other recreational levels. It is produced at lower purity for those purposes. Like for sports persons. If sports persons use, or divers use, or pilots use it, they do not use it with this much of 99 to 100% purity. It is available at lower purity. Now, liquid oxygen is has to be stored in cryo containers. There are different containers. Otherwise, normal oxygen cylinders are good enough. These are for supplemental oxygen. This oxygen is manufacturable. It is produced in industries. from air, of course, or water in some cases. It's not moving down.
Moving down, madam.
Okay. So the availability of oxygen, it is produced in liters per 500 LPM, 1000 LPM, and such other purities at required purity. The capacity of the cylinders is like this, and it is stored in 150 to 2250 liter capacity cylinders fitted with humidifier, flow meter, regulator, and oxygen concentrators. These are separate units that directly produce oxygen from air, and these are used for medical purposes and for other domestic and recreational purposes also. These are available at 5 to 10 LPM at 93% purity. Small oxygen canisters are also available. These are now used like our inhalers. You know, for various respiratory diseases, for asthma, people have inhalers. You just press something and then it produces a burst of air or medicine or oxygen for you to immediately get relieved from various stresses like asthma and other things. And these small oxygen canisters are used for emergency, like inhalers. Now, various gadgets and tools used for supplying the supplemental oxygen to human beings or for patients is this. Pulse oximeter is the main instrument. You must have seen it in every ICU. Pulse oximeter is kept to your middle finger, ring finger, as soon as one goes into an ICU. And this measures saturated levels of oxygen. Equipment of ABG test. There is something called ABG test, which gives another value and the equipment required for it. Blood pressure machine. The actual gadgets and tools used for this are pretty simple. I'm not talking about industries which produce oxygen in various forms. I'm not talking about those gadgets, those machines. I'm talking about gadgets used in for domestic purposes or recreational purposes or even in hospitals. Blood pressure machine, cylinders, regulator, humidifier, pipes, air purifiers. Air purifiers is one recent, probably it has been there for some time, but it is coming out as a separate unit now, which is available for purchase immediately. And if you keep it in closed places, it keeps the air very pure by removing the pollutants, aerosols, and other pollutants in the air. These equipment are also available now, and concentrators and oxygen plants, of course. Now, expertise required for administering oxygen for various purposes to human beings. Medical oxygen, let me say very emphatically that medical oxygen is a drug. It is a medicine. It is termed medical oxygen, though you have seen in the pandemic cases, lots of people have right away purchased it. They did not go to hospital. They purchased oxygen cylinders, probably used them at home. Even then, it was actually a medical oxygen. It is available only as a drug, and it is made available to people only with a prescription. I have read that oxygen concentrators are not available for purchase without any prescription, just like that from a medical shop. Until today, that is the case. There is an order from the government of India that oxygen concentrators should not be made available to public because the number of units are actually lacking. so they're not made available free for purchase for normal public. Now, hence, R&D personnel to enable this ecosystem. Now, this is a very, very important conclusion I would like to, it is not a conclusion, it is a, my inference, I would say it is an inference that I have drawn from this study, that there is a lot of research and development required for administering this oxygen and enabling this ecosystem of oxygen well in the entire ecosystem. What is entire ecosystem? Normal public, patients, hospitals, and any other recreational units wherever oxygen is required. Now, doctors who are aware of oxygen uses. Now, it may not be. I do not know if I'm making a mistake by saying that doctors do not prescribe use of oxygen directly to patients. I have not seen any such prescription in my life so far, neither to me nor to any of my known people, near and dear. So the uses of oxygen need to be made more aware by doctors themselves, nurses for its administration, and the nurses who actually are so very important personnel to administer various drugs to critically ill patients and anybody actually whoever goes into hospitals, they need to be made aware of this for a different for an administration. Now, technicians, of course, technicians need to manage the delivery of oxygen. We have seen accidents taking place while supplying oxygen to hospitals recently, and technicians not able to manage, and technicians fiddling with the equipment and all that. So there is a need for this entire ecosystem to be made aware, to be trained for administering oxygen in required quantities for patients. All the above personnel need to be trained in oxygen management for various treatments and its administration at their various levels. Now, thus, I conclude actually my first part of the presentation where I have brought the study of oxygen to your consciousness, that there is a real need for looking at oxygen ecosystem, its availability, the problems it can cause. I'm not addressing the recent pandemic problems directly. I want to consciously avoid it because many of you might have read it, because you are all scientists. You might have read it in. It has, totally camouflaged all our thinking for the past 1.5 years. So I do not want to add my bit to it, and I want to bring your awareness to the ecosystem by itself. That is the reason for my presentation today. So thus I have brought it into your awareness or consciousness. Now let us look at the uses of oxygen for improvements in patients. Now, so far we have seen all uses of oxygen for patients. Now, improvements in patients. Patients themselves need to be educated, made aware of the benefits of oxygen therapy. So, the process of administering oxygen can be called an oxygen therapy. Like we have physiotherapy, like we have other therapies. Administering oxygen to patients can be termed oxygen therapy. Patients themselves need to be educated and be made aware of the benefits of oxygen therapy a lot, because as of now they do not know. They may be knowing that oxygen is useful, but they do not know how to get it, but they do not know how to take it, or they do not know when to take it, where to take it, how much to take it. So the communities that undergo oxygen therapy, just to bring to your awareness, the communities that undergo oxygen therapy regularly are diverse. These people are very aware of oxygen ecosystem. They know oxygen therapy directly because they use it in their lives. Mountain climbers, mine workers, pilots, And I have not added sports persons, but sports persons also use it a lot. Remedies for patients for with oxygen therapy is, here the remedy is oxygen itself. Making oxygen available to the patient itself is a remedy. Now, its direct administration as a drug in quality and quantity is to be made available to doctors. We see a lot of non-use of direct oxygen, supplemental oxygen by doctors as a drug, like any other drugs, and it is because doctors themselves are not aware of how to use it, when to use it, where to use it. Like us scientists here, they are also aware that oxygen can cure lots of things, but they do not know how to prescribe it as a drug, for how many days, at what quantities, for what patients. So the doctor community need to be made aware of how to administer this as a drug in quality and quantity. Like a medicine, like they say crocin needs to be administered 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening, every 6 hours, whenever you get a fever, and use 600 mg of it, use Dolo, like that. That kind of administration package has to be given for our doctors who are directly involved with patients, and they look at patients' wellness. They care for patients' wellness. Now, this data is lacking. Unlike for other drugs, medicines manufactured by big companies, marketed and sold actively to doctors. Now, we know that a lot of research goes into discovery of a drug, manufacturing of a medicine, and its sales to doctors, and of course doctors have to administer it to patients. So there is a huge pharmaceutical ecosystem that is running in our world, in our real world, but such a kind of ecosystem is lacking in the case of oxygen. That is why you do not see many oxygen plants, many oxygen cylinders in use, many oxygen flow meters, or any other innovations that actually are needed. If oxygen is administered a lot more, at a lot of pressure, the patient may not be able to take it well. He will get into some kind of fits or dizziness and things like that. So though oxygen is a life-sustaining gas, its administration needs to be really understood well. So it is not just like that given, or in any quantity given, at any time given. It is not like that. So we need to create that ecosystem. Wherever, whenever, however, persons feel breathless. So you can remember this: wherever, whenever, however people feel breathless, they first need to be given medical oxygen. That is oxygenate. This is supplemental oxygenate, 99 to 100% purity. That oxygen needs to be given whenever persons feel breathless. Then the other diagnostic process follows. So once a patient moves into ICU and he is given a oxygen flow for direct inhalation, so that he comes out of the trauma, the initial shock of getting the disease, then the other diagnostic process follows, because doctors are used, the doctor community is used to administering other drugs, other medicines. They are aware of all that kind of medical process, and that kind of diagnostic process sets in, and then they look at various causes, and then they administer drugs. So because they are used to this, the medical oxygen is first given, then the diagnostic process follows, and as the patient responds, he is weaned away from medical oxygen. Medical oxygen is removed, and he is given the other drugs, other medicines for recovery. Okay, so the administration of oxygen needs to be understood. Good scientific data needs to be created, and then that should go to doctors community as a very easily understandable drug administration kind of a procedure. Now, remedies continued. While the root cause is being identified, persons are put on medical treatments with surgeries, powerful medicines, injections, IV fluids. These are all given to them. He or she is removed from medical oxygen. Their dependence on medical oxygen is reduced, and as patients respond to these medical treatments, they go back to breathing normal air. So, from a critical condition in their body where they were not getting oxygen for their body and they went into a diseased condition, first they are administered medical oxygen, then the diagnostic process follows, and then a surgery is done on them probably, or a powerful medicine is given, or a radiotherapy is done, or an injection is given, or IV fluids are given. They're given all this, and slowly as the patient responds, the medical oxygen, their dependence on medical oxygen is reduced, and they're put back on normal air. That means they go into a state where they do not need that supplemental oxygen anymore. Now, remedies continued. Even when one is suffering from lifestyle or chronic diseases like cancers, addiction of any kind, addiction, to opioids, opium, heroin, and such other addiction-causing drugs. Obesity, even for obesity, oxygen treatment can be done. This is another important thing. Wounds, for healing of deep wounds on human body, which can be diabetes related, sports related, or burns related. People get very deep wounds and they don't heal properly, and they cause lots of problems. For remedies to this kind of wounds, hypertension, sleep apnea, people suffer from sleep deprivation, brain stroke, of course, heart stroke. Oxygen therapy is useful, but oxygen therapy is, as of now, is being administered in the process that I have described just now. And how much more oxygen, at what cost of other medicines, we do not know. So a huge R&D process is required to understand that part of it. Now, remedies continued. The most important parameter in all this that they study is with pulse oximeter. They study what is called SpO2. This is superfluous. It is for even for a normal eye, for a normal person. It is monitored quickly with pulse oximeter as SpO2, and if it is more than 95%, it is good. If it is less than 90%, it is bad. They just go by these two numbers, and they put medical oxygen mask give a medical oxygen mask for a patient. Now, this is only an indicative thing and not very accurate. So even a proper parameter probably needs to be discovered, and oxygen administration needs to be looked at. A more accurate parameter is actually measured with a test called ABG test. It is done with some injections, and some blood samples are taken out, and they study what is called, they measure what is called partial pressure of oxygen. If it is between these two values, it is normal, and if it is between these two values, it is hypoxemia. That means oxygen levels in blood are not good. If it is less than 60 mm, need for supplemental oxygen. So these are the indications. However, this test is complicated and can be done only in a hospital. It cannot be done with the normal processes. Now, I have been seeing ever since the pandemic burst of activity in our lives, I have seen a lot of local innovations. Not lots, quite a few. Many types of flow adjusters have come up. Our local IITs have actually, and other engineering institutes have actually discovered them. Reputed educational organizations are involved. They look at the pulse oximeter's SpO2 value, and if it is reducing below this value, they provide oxygen. The regulator of oxygen is opened more, so that more oxygen goes for breathing, And then the value immediately goes up. They can see that, and if the value is read in the pulse oximeter to be more than 95%, the flow is regulated. That kind of small simple devices, and there are other devices also which sense the exhalation of carbon dioxide and take a precautionary action to stop that or open the oxygen valve more. Oxygen audits are taking place. So the audit of how much oxygen is being, how much oxygen is available in a hospital, how much is being used, how much is becoming stale, etc., etc. The cleanliness of the equipment that is storing oxygen and all those parameters are considered part of oxygen audit. Commercial use of oxygen is coming up. There are oxygen bars and such as therapy units coming up in local markets, and that is why I talked about commercial use of oxygen. Now, education and training is becoming more and more important, as people do not know. People are using it. People have started using it. They do not know the implications of it very, very well. So the interest in oxygen has just started. It just started. The one precaution that I can say while administering oxygen one has to take care is this oxygen unit and the users using inhaling oxygen have to stay away from flames, fire. And hospitals have to have fire detection units, cylinders and such other things. Fire extinguishers, I mean. Interest in oxygen has just started. Conclusions cannot be arrived at. I cannot conclude this discussion in any way. The wisdom of the current world can help come to quicker lessons for implementation. Each of us have a role in this huge task. You are invited to join it. So I conclude my presentation to IET at this moment. Thank you, sir.
We'll open the session for any questions. If any of the member have any questions, please.
Any queries you can ask, sir, all participants.
Dr. Narmi, excellent lecture.
Thank you, sir.
It's great awareness for us. I'd like to know what is the importance of iron in blood in relation to oxygen.
Iron actually helps hemoglobin cells.
I see.
The quantity of hemoglobin has to exist for men in a certain number, and for women in a certain number. Women need a little more. So iron helps hemoglobin, and hemoglobin helps oxygen, because hemoglobin is the particle that carries oxygen throughout the human body, and iron helps build hemoglobin.
Madam, one small question. I am Anupam Tiwari. So, the regulation of oxygen from the cylinder, how it is done? Because the percentage is very important to inhale.
Yes, sir. Percentage purity you are talking, or percentage amount?
Ma'am, say suppose in that cylinder 100% purity is there, but if you take 100% of oxygen, it may damage us. So how to regulate that percentage?
There is a flow meter, sir. Every cylinder comes with a flow meter, a regulator, and a humidifier. So there is a flow indication. Normal human beings can have, at a 6 to 7 liters per minute. Their administration levels are 6 to 7 liters per minute. But for a deceased, a sick person, a little more, 10 to 15 liters per minute are administered. But if somebody tries to push it at 50 liters per minute or 60 liters per minute, it is going to certainly cause problems to them. There are something called hyperbaric chambers, HBRC chambers, which used for recreational purposes. They provide oxygen for inhalation. People normally walk into that. They're not patients. They walk into those chambers. They inhale oxygen and then go away. There, the various levels of flow required for various kinds of stresses are given as a chart, and the flow needs to be regulated like that. That is why I'm saying technicians and nurses, they all need to be trained on how to administer this.
So that flow meter is not automated. That means we have to regulate 10 to 15 liters of oxygen per hour, what you said.
You're right, sir. That is the current state. I'm saying the local innovations currently our IIT Hyderabad and other IITs have actually come out with innovations where they're detecting this pulse oximeter's value. If it is reading something like 80, the oxygen is, the regulator valve is opened more. And then a burst of flow happens for the patient. And then the pulse oximeter gives its value. It is immediately increasing. And once it increases to above 95%, the flow, the regulator is closed a little bit, to bring it, leave it at that sustainable level. This happens automatically in that innovation. Otherwise, if you see normal hospitals now, it is all happening manually. Like you said. Sir?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
Participants, any questions or? Namashwar Garu.
Anyway, Dr. Nalini Garu is a very good
I think there is no question, sir.
For all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, madam, for your sparing your valuable time and given the right webinar in the right time. Thank you so much. And now I request our Vice President, K. Sitaram Garu, to propose vote of thanks.
Madam, thank you very much, madam. As for a change, we want to bring something new to IIT webinars. Consistently, we have been working on electronics and related webinars.
What can be better that it have brought a fresh air in our this one, that to oxygen in this our webinar series. What better can be? Yeah.
Absolutely true, sir. What you said is absolutely true.
Yeah. Okay, continue. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, your mic got mute.
The continuous stream of what we have, the life members of above 60 plus of IIT life members who are part of the webinars, we thought we would continue the same. Since our average is like 70, 75, madam, I thought this change would continue to have the same number of participants. Sorry, madam, we could not do that, though we have circulated this to all the life members of IIT, madam. Anyway, thank you very much, madam, for bringing us a change. As Harjinder Singh sir said, that Russia has made us more motivated and with fresh outlook. We thank the K. Lakshmanan Garu for having part of it. He is the Vice Chairman, past IIT Vice President, and also the Vice Chairman of the Advisory Committee. We also thank Ramesh Garu and Niranjan Prasad, both the Governing Council members and strong pillars of the IIT India future. And we should also thank P.N. Rao Garu, Dr. Veerbhadra Rao Garu, Anupam Tiwari ji, Yogesh Pundalik, Christopher John, Harjinder Singh, T. Ramay Garu, and then Lakshmanan Garu for having part of this webinar. We also thank all the participants, other participants. Again, we meet next week with some other topic. Till such time, thank you very much and have a wonderful week to come. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Sitaram Babu Garu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I request all of you, please fill the feedback link so you get the certificate.
Uh,